Hello, Bolo Estente. So, the reason why we're doing this video today is that it's been 3 days now since I opened ISA 1, and I've made, just off of the interest, 3p in 3 days. Now, I know what some of you are probably thinking. That is no reason to boast. Why am I still watching? I'll tell you why exactly. So, the goal really for this channel, the first major one, I suppose, is that I want to go an entire year making exactly £1 off of the interest, just across the board. And the reason why we're calling it ISA 1 is because after 100 days in which we managed to get at least £1 actually saved on the interest, I want to open a second ISA and start the process all over again, with ISA 1 continuing as before. So once we end up making about £3 across the board, we'll open up a third ISA and the process continue. Now the idea is that if it's possible to open 100 ISAs, I have absolutely no idea at this stage, but imagine how funny it would be if we could actually make a nice £1 a day just via that process. It probably doesn't sound realistic, and I don't necessarily believe in the back of my mind that there's enough banks in this country that would be able to do that sort of thing. But with that being said, there is another very interesting little port of call to call attention to, and that is the fact that how much is this actually going to cost before we can actually boast to making £1 a day? To my estimate, if I was around about what I had to do is I had to put about £100 into ISA 1, and the APR representative on the interest means that it's about a very specific percent. It's either like 4.8 or 4.6 to my knowledge. Either way, it equates to 1p a day. So that means that on average, I would need to have about £10,000 put away before I could start seeing, £1 a day. For all intents and purposes, because not all interest rates are obviously going to be the same for that sort of reason, let's just say round about £13,000. So 13 grand is what it would cost me to make £1 a day. And across a whole year, providing it wasn't touched, you're talking an extra £365 for literally just the money sitting there doing nothing apart from gathering dust. Now, when you start to think about it, it's kind of actually not anywhere near as long and as egregious as it sounds, because it does bring up a very, very interesting point. I am making money out of nothing, which technically that's what it is. The only rule I had to follow is just make sure the money stays where it is, make sure it doesn't get touched, and let the good times roll. That at first sight is pretty much all it seems is going to happen. And in terms of, well, probably what happens after that will be an interesting question. But how long, theoretically, would it actually take to get about 13 grand put away? Well, that's a pretty difficult one to come to terms with. But I would say, so let's do a few calculations. So every 100 days, we put £100 into an ISA. So at that rate, every 100 days, and if we need at least, let's say if we really wanted to go for the whole 100 ISAs sort of thing, I can't see that really being possible, but theoretically, let's just roll with it anyway. So 100 ISAs means that it would take about 10,000 days. It would take about 10,000 days before this whole thing came to fruition. So 10,000 days is 365 days in the year, so you've got 600, 750, and then it would take roughly somewhere near about, I would say, about nearly 14 years at our current rate, which is a bit problematic because I thought it was going to take a while. So, yes, okay, automatically we seem to have a problem. However, now listen. Here's the thing you need to understand about problems is that it's not anywhere near as difficult as it sounds, because even if that was what we were going for, it meant that I would possibly be into my 40s, into my mid 40s by the time that happened. And call me old fashioned, but sooner rather than later, because by the time I get to my mid 40s, that's far too late. So okay, therefore we've established that's going to take too long. What if we halved it somehow? What if we decided we put 100 quid away every 50 days? Or what if we sliced it down again and we did it once every 10 days? What if we put 100 quid away every 10 days? So it would take roughly about 1,000 days. So we're talking about just under 3 years. Now, that might sound like actually that just makes more sense. But then I have to come to another very interesting point. You know how I said a couple of moments ago that 13 grand is, give or take, round about what we need in order to make this work? Well, do you know many people who actually can afford to have 13 grand just sitting around as disposable income? Or for that matter, who could afford to actually put 100 quid away a week? It's all, it's a difficult one, don't get me wrong. However, that does mean to say, well, we've got to find a way to cut costs. And the way to cut costs is the way that it's always done. Think about things that you don't need, things you could possibly move on, and things that you just straight up know are burning a hole in your pocket. So that might, I'm gonna have to draw up a list and see exactly what we can do without. Because guess what? I absolutely stay tall and adamant in terms of what I say, that actually this could all be done in 3 years. If anything, it could be almost done almost half the time if, well, maybe we get a lucky break somewhere. But you never know, guys. You never know. It's entirely possible there might be good fortune just around the corner. But for now, that's what lays before us. 3 years is what it's probably going to take to get to our goal. And the goal is just to have a quid passively. That's the name of the game. And, well, let's get started, shall we? Thank you.